So you want to make a miracle cure, but you just don't know how. Well, a good place to start would be the periodic table. There's plenty of good options. Potassium, found in bananas, seems like a good bet. Or maybe chlorine. Not particularly great for humans on its own, but when combined with sodium creates a compound essential to human life. Radium. What? No. Radium is a radioactive metal. Radium. Thousands would die. Radium! Over 100 years ago, in 1918, the hottest new drug was hitting the market. Do you suffer from aches, coughs, and impotence? Well, do I have a solution for you? Radithor, a cure-all for the living dead, so you can get back to feeling like you. Made with all natural ingredients, Radithor is completely safe. Bailey Radium Laboratories is not responsible for the misuse of this product. Side effects may include fever, chills, premature decay, colds in skull, loss of jaw, every cancer imaginable, and tummy aches. If you experience any of these symptoms, please talk to your local Bailey Radium Laboratories representative/doctor. Radithor, perpetual sunshine. Seriously, it was marketed for all those things and was actually called Perpetual Sunshine. It's easy to look back at this and think, how in the world did anyone believe this? Well, to understand that, we have to understand how amazing everyone thought radium was at this time. First isolated in 1898 by Marie and Pierre Curie, the element radium mystified the world. Known as a self-luminous metal, it generated this really cool-looking green light. It is also important to understand that many of the harmful effects of radiation were almost entirely unknown at this point, because look at that thing, this is the quintessential radioactive look you think of when you think of radiation. People fantasize about cities of the future being lit by radium or restaurants serving glowing food and drinks. And after scientists were able to successfully kill cancer cells with it, its popularity really took hold. Researchers searched intensely for ways to cure other diseases with it. However, this opened the door for corruption to utilize an already very deadly force. Radiation can be used in certain medical contexts to benefit the patient. This is called radiotherapy. When radiation is promoted as medicine and actively hurts the patient, it is known as radioactive quackery. The radium craze of the early 1900s was the highest reported period of radioactive quackery in history. One such quack, a businessman named William J.A. Bailey, garnered significant attention during this time. After dropping out of Harvard, Bailey falsely claimed to be a doctor and bought in heavily to the sale of radioactive medicines. In 1918, he had his big break with the invention of the miracle cure, Radithor. A mixture of distilled water and one microcurie of radium isotopes 226 and 228, this deadly liquid came in half-ounce bottles for your convenience. It was marketed as a cure-all for everything, from aches, pains, and coughs, to mental illness and even marital problems. From 1925 to 1930, over 400,000 bottles of Radithor were sold. Despite ample warnings from the FDA that it was unsafe, doctors all over the country sold them and were given 1/6 commission on all bottles prescribed. Over 1,400 bottles went to one man alone. Eben Byers, a wealthy Yale grad and adept sportsman, suffered a small injury one night in 1927 after falling from an elevated bed. The fall, while minor, left his arm in persistent pain, and in a time before Advil, there weren't too many options for relief. But Radithor seemed to do the trick just fine. In fact, it may have done the job even better than fine. Byers started taking several bottles a day and reported that Radithor made him feel toned up, and that his arm pain had lessened. Then his teeth started falling out. He had stopped taking the medicine in 1930 after the toned-up feeling faded and he started having headaches, which continuously got worse because his skull was beginning to disintegrate. The Federal Trade Commission had heard rumors of Byers' deteriorating condition and requested he come testify about his experience. Byers, however, was too sick to travel, so a lawyer was sent to him to take his statement. What that lawyer saw was horrifying. Just a graphic content warning before we proceed. The lawyer reported Byers' whole upper jaw, excepting 2 front teeth and most of his lower jaw, had been removed, and that all the remaining bone tissue of his body was disintegrating, and holes were actually forming in his skull. He died shortly after on March 31st, 1932. What would be called radiation poisoning was considered the cause of death, and the source was declared to be unequivocally linked to Radithor. As a result, the FTC issued a cease and desist against Bailey's companies, and the production of Radithor thankfully came to a screeching halt. Despite all this, Bailey died a rich man in 1949. However, the twist of irony should be noted, as his cause of death was bladder cancer brought on by excessive exposure to, you guessed it, radium. When his body was exhumed 20 years later, it was, quote, ravaged by radiation. Eben Byers' death, while tragic, helped bring awareness to the dangers of radium medicines and other products. The horrors of this miracle element were on full display, and Byers wasn't the only one. Eventually, regulations and education were enough to destroy the once great name of radium, and this really weird craze faded into obscurity. Thanks for tuning in to Weird Universe. It struck me while writing this that a bunk bed was essentially the root cause of this man's death. And as tragic as that is, it really speaks to the potential dangers of bunk beds, don't you think? Be sure to like and subscribe, and if you enjoy content about some of the weirder things out there, be sure to check out my other videos.